Epos has sent along their latest watch, the Epos 3504 Diver. Now, this piece obviously takes cues from the Rolex Submariner, but we're also talking a price of $1,428. And let's face it, this design of watch is immensely popular and probably always will be. Now, over the past few weeks, I really kind of struggled as to how I wanted to do this review, mostly because this is not exactly my type of watch for a few reasons I will discuss in this video. But the more I looked at it, wore it, and photographed it, I knew one thing. This is a very beautiful and well-made watch, so let's get into it and take a closer look. Let's go ahead and I will get the specs here on screen, but the key or takeaway points here are the 41.5 millimeter stainless steel case. It's available in three colors: blue, black, and a very striking green color. All have matching ceramic bezel inserts, and they are powered by the standard SW200, which is unfortunate as at this price it should have absolutely been elaborate. Let me know what you think of the standard movement being used instead of a higher grade down in the comment section below. The case is very sub-inspired, again, like countless other brands have done, and it's not exact, of course, but very similar down to the crown and bezel. It has a helium release valve on the side of the case for probably less than 5% of the population that will ever use it. The case and bracelet have a great feel, though. It weighs in at 203 grams unsized, and more than that, it feels very well balanced and very solid throughout. The finishing is very well done. It's a striking looking watch, no doubt, and at this price, you would expect a pretty smooth watch, and this definitely is. No issues I could find when running my hands around the case or the case back, wearing it, using the crown, etc. Now, speaking of the crown, again, it's very solid, it's smooth to use, and it's a pretty damn large crown at almost 8 millimeters, making it easy to grasp even with those integrated crown guards. The bezel is the same thing. This is one of those bezels that you can grab any which way and you'll still be able to turn it. Whether your fingers are on the sides or you're pushing more downward, you can turn this bezel. Yet, while it turns smoothly, there is no play in the bezel at all and it stays in place. I mean, pretty much exactly what you want in a dive watch bezel. The feel and the sound is very satisfying to use and it doesn't feel cheap at all. And the insert is, of course, ceramic. It definitely fits the style of watch, so don't worry, no aluminum being used here. A sunray blue dial, which does a pretty good job of matching the hue of the blue ceramic bezel. It's not exact, but it's pretty difficult to match those perfectly. The dial is where this watch really strays away from Rolex, sans the date Cyclops at least. You have no Mercedes hands, no wall of text. You have thin and sleek applied indices, same for the hands. This is definitely more of an elegant dial than you would expect for a 500-meter dive watch with a helium release valve. So to me, it does kind of come off like it has an identity crisis. And I do want to talk about that Cyclops. You know, it is something I'm not fond of, as many of you probably know, and I know there are a lot of you who like them. My experience is it's kind of like a wart on the crystal or the dial, and most of the time it really doesn't make the date that much easier to read, at least not to me. Now, on this Epos, I will say it is very well done. It really does magnify the date, and you pretty much see it from all angles, but I will still always rather not have one. The bracelet has a lot of high polish all down in the middle of the links and on the side, and of course this is going to show scratches and fingerprints much easier than if it was all brushed, and it comes off a little too flashy in my opinion. 3 links out will make it fit snugly on my 7.5-inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, and these do use screws, so very easy to size. The clasp, though, well, it's beautiful. It doesn't really have any micro adjusting to speak of, though. There is an old school clasp extension, and if you pull it out, you can see that there are some holes in the clasp, but they are not drilled all the way through for a much cleaner look, but they're mostly pointless. The holes are just much too close together, and if you were looking to fine tune this to your wrist, the holes in the clasp will not help. What does help though is the half links, as there are two, so this allows you to get a better fit. If you are someone that is always in between when it comes to sizing, I suggest leaving the half links in. It will help you get that almost perfect fit. And the bracelet does have quick release pins in the end links. And initially, I was worried how this would feel on the wrist because they kind of stick out a little bit. But while you can feel them with your finger, that is not the case on the wrist. The case back has a good shape, and while not completely fat, it kind of molds to your wrist, or I should say, it molds to my wrist. And as I said earlier, I find this watch to be very well balanced. It's not case or bracelet heavy, and even though this is a decent chunk of steel, you could still wear this all day and night and not have any issues. Again, at least that was my experience. The case back also raises the watch up enough that the large crown doesn't dig into the back of my hand. And lastly, we get to the loom, and I have to say, I never expected the loom to be this good, especially with the very thin indices. Now, I'm not going to call it a torch, but the loom stays bright, and you should be able to see it no problem for a good 3 to 4 hours or so. So they definitely used some A-grade loom compound here. When it comes to these style of watches, some of them I love, some of them I hate, and some are just another watch of this style on the market, and I don't give it a second glance at all. Like, say, a Pagani design watch, as an example. Now, I'm not exactly sure what camp this one falls into for me. Obviously, there are quite a few things I would change on this Epos 3504, but I ended up liking this piece a lot more than I thought I would, and that's probably just because it's a very solid and well made watch. And while it's not for me, I could see why it would be so attractive to others, especially if you want that sub design but aren't wanting a straight up copy. So, this is a nice example to have out there. That's all for this one. As always, I want to hear from you. Liking, commenting, and subscribing is the best thing you could do to help the channel and help with the algorithm, so I'd appreciate if you would do all three. Let me know what you think of this piece, what you like, what you don't, if you're in love with it or you hate it, and let me know what other Epos watches you want to see me review, or any watch for that matter. Give us a follow on social media if you want to stay up to date with all that we have coming in for review. And if you don't want to miss any of our reviews, make sure you have notifications on. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.